Welcome back to the kick-off. Now, Newcastle have been getting digged out after the defeat at the weekend for Arsenal using the dark arts. Beat them at their own game, they said. Oh, really? And this lady has had a right fucking pop at them.
They managed to combine elegant football, so occasionally beautiful football and incisive football, with a lot of time wasting and niggling and...
What is niggling? What is annoying everybody? Time wasting is something that is as old as football itself at this point. We're a tough side. We get stuck into you. And occasionally, if we're winning a game, we'll run the clock down a bit because that's what you do when you're on top and you're in the, the last 20 minutes of a game or whatever. This is a lot of people coming out with this stuff now. It's as if Newcastle invented shithousery. And as much as I'd love for us to take credit for that, we definitely didn't.
I mean, I think Newcastle are very good at time wasting and moaning and being in the ear of the fourth official and just generally being the most irritating team in the universe.
Okay, I think we're very good at a lot of things. One would be defending. Best defensive record in the country. In terms of moaning to the referee, I mean, did we invent this? Was Alex Ferguson's Man United teams not doing this to a point of like the ridiculous? Everyone appreciated that they were bastards. They were nasty, that they got stuck in. They played the game with intelligence. Do you think Jose Mourinho said to the Spurs team in that Amazon documentary, look, we need to be a bunch of cunts? Do you think he did that for no reason? That's how you compete. You can't be nice. You can't be soft. You have to kick, claw and scream for every single advantage you can get, especially when most referees aren't capable of doing their job in any case. And I have no problem with any team being aggressive in that way. No problem. But when we hear Arsenal did it to them, Arsenal did time waste, yeah. But what they did was they threw themselves on the ground constantly. At points, we seen multiple Arsenal players down near each other because they were just told to dive quite clearly. Now, Newcastle, yes, we're an aggressive side, but we get stuck in. We play the game in a manly way, generally, and we don't go down like pussies like these lot were. I don't even care. Like, you do your dark arts, we'll do ours. I don't see any of them as any different in regards to competing. One just happens to look very pathetic. It's one thing screaming in the referee going, come on, I want the fucking... It's another thing like you get a little tap and you go down like you've been shot. Fuck me, JFK didn't make as big a fucking deal about this. One little knock from Joe Linton and you're in bloody the recovery fucking position. But she's having a go, so let her go.
And also, Newcastle were very good for the first opening 8-9 minutes, and you did think, oh my goodness, this could be the end of the title race.
We were actually good for the entire game. It's just Arsenal got a fairly lucky own goal, I would suggest, and also that Odegaard shot probably should have been saved. I think it was a very even game. You could even argue Newcastle might have been the better side. So saying we're only good for the first 8-9 minutes, it's like she didn't even watch this game. Newcastle didn't like it one bit. I mean, we play every game aggressively. We don't like anyone we play against.
Ask for Arsenal crumble. The fact that they didn't, the fact that they took a deep breath and absorbed that early pressure and then managed to impose their style on the game in sections, not all the way through. It was really grown up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Arsenal handled the game really well. They showed in that game that they have the ability to not bottle it. The problem is, when the pressure was really on, when they were front runners and Southampton came to the Emirates, they did bottle it. And bottling it is when the pressure is on and you massively underperform against a team you should be beating easily. Newcastle away is one of the hardest games you'll get all season. And it's a game where at this point, you're pretty much seen as out of the title race if you don't win. The pressure wasn't on in the same way. You're not front runners. So I'm not completely convinced that Arsenal's mentality problems have gone, but I think that it definitely bodes well for the future that they had the ability to do that. And I think Newcastle desperately missed Longstaff. Even though I don't particularly think Longstaff's great, his position of being that defensive midfielder who does a lot of running was missed. And Granit Xhaka and people like him really put the foot in and actually played a really good role for Arsenal in that game and dominated the midfield battle at times, where Willock and Joe Linton really not impacting the game enough. And I thought Bruno didn't have his best game either. When we're looking at the average time delay before goal kicks, obviously Liverpool very quick, City very quick. Why is that? They're playing it short. They pass it out from the back a lot of the time. Newcastle, on the other hand, will often go long. That makes sense. Hence why Everton, Sean Dyche's Everton, will go long. People are overstating the point here. Yeah, we do time waste when we're on top, when we're beating teams, and it's frustrating. And Arsenal did it to us. You give it, you can take it. So average time delay before corners, we're about in the middle. And considering we often get our defenders forward, which takes time. That's another explanation for that. And we're not even rock bottom, we're bang in the middle. Average time delay before throw-ins. There we go, top 10. It's just bollocks, to be honest with you. And the more I'm looking at this, the more you just say it's a load of shite. This is a narrative that's been created because we frustrated the living hell out of a few managers who couldn't handle how we competed. So now this narrative's been drawn up, and people who don't do their research or don't watch Newcastle every week, which is fine. No one, no one can watch every football match, but people just don't realise that actually momentum and pace is a big part of our game, especially at St James's Park. It's just a load of shite, this narrative. Next story is Erik ten Hag. People are cottoning on to the fact that this guy is not exactly blowing people away this season after I pointed it out a few months back. And I'm not saying that I think he's a bad manager before people take it out of context, but the people are highlighting that he has lost more games this season already before the end of the season than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer lost in his only 2 full seasons as Manchester United manager. He came in halfway through one season, left halfway through the other, but in his 2 full seasons, he lost 8 games in his first one, 6 games in his second one, and Erik ten Hag is already on 9 defeats this season, and that is after £220 million of investment. He's on 63 points currently as I'm making this video. Solskjaer's last full season was a 74 point. The reality is he can't even equal that, and Ole finished second that season, so there's no way he's equal in that. Does that mean Ollie's better? No. Does it mean that everyone who raved about Erik ten Hag as the hero of Man United? I think it proves that he is certainly not working miracles at all. When I hear people say, oh, Ten Hag's done a miracle to get top 4 with this lot, what a load of shit. Honestly, the way this guy is defended. I'll give you an example. Gary Neville said after Man United lost to West Ham, bearing in mind this is David Moyes' West Ham, the guy who wasn't good enough for Man United and didn't even see out 1 full season in charge. United so poor this game, Gary Neville says. Erik ten Hag seeing more of the players in these situations is a positive. Well, maybe you should try coaching them, making them better, making them actually play to their potential, because given the level of player you have, you can't tell me that they're not capable of beating this West Ham side. But oh no, it's just good that Ten Hag can say that. Maybe you should have seen it all fucking season, mate. Jesus, man, the level of fucking protection this guy gets is insane. The real disgrace are the Glazers. You literally spend 220 million in the summer. Every single time Man United lose a game, 9 of them this season, by the way. Oh, it's the fucking Glazers' fault. But it's never Ten Hag's fault. Yet every other manager in the Premier League, when he loses a game, it's on him, it's on the players. Ten Hag is so immune to criticism, it's staggering. Even when he fucks it at half-time, makes the wrong decisions, wrong substitutions. I've never known a manager lose 7-0 to his arch rivals and fucking get no criticism. I literally have never seen anything like this. Jamie Carragher responded, yeah, the Glazers decided to play Weghorsts at 10, spend 90 million on Anthony and 70 million on Casemiro, 31, on a 5-year deal. I actually think there's every chance Erik ten Hag can come good. I think there's every chance he might do really well next season. And again, I'm not saying Erik ten Hag's a bad manager, and I certainly think with some more players brought in through the door, we can judge him more accurately next season, because then this whole thing of it's not really his team is put to bed a bit more. He's had adequate time to get them coached, adequate time to bring in new players, and we can see what he's really about more next season. Fair enough. But to just excuse him of any blame at all and put everything on the Glazers, when this was a team that already had a lot of quality players and added a fuck ton of them in the summer, it just blows my mind. And people think that I'm a hater. I don't put myself out there and say things if I don't really believe them, and sometimes I get them completely wrong, but this isn't out of hate. James Maddison is coming under fire. Simon Jordan isn't happy with James Maddison's comments about a lack of hunger.
That is a really damaging defeat, isn't it? I can imagine that you are hurting right now.
Yeah, hurting very much, yeah. Big game for us. We weren't at it.
Why do you think that was?
Just didn't start the game well enough. Just in at half time, I think it was 3-0, and to give yourselves too much to do, mountain to climb from not being aggressive, not being at it, not being not being hungry enough to want to win the game. I think.
Okay, so you get the point. That's the demeanour of the guy. James Maddison then says, "What is wrong with social media? Say one thing after an interview, straight after a game, it gets taken way out of context. When I say not hungry enough, I mean aggressive on the front foot in duels, not us wanting to win or realising the importance." Meaning they understand what they need to do mentally, but physically they're not achieving that. And that's when he says, we're not hungry enough. He doesn't mean the desire isn't there. We were not good enough today and we've only got ourselves to blame, and I apologise for that. But as someone who sees the work we are doing every single day to put this right, it is not down to attitude or application. We will keep going to the very end. Application wise, it probably is, but it is also just ability. But you'd think with some of the quality that they have in this squad, despite it not being huge amounts, I mean, down there at the bottom, it's not like Everton are lock, stock and fucking smoking with stars. They literally make and do with what they've got, and that's what everyone down there is doing. But I take the lad's point, and I actually like the way he speaks in interviews. I think he's one of the best Premier League footballers at that. The sad thing is he might not be a Premier League footballer much longer, because with Everton scrapping their way out of it, and I seen glimmers of this at the start against Newcastle, I thought they fought really hard against us, and it's paid off since then. Nicking the draw against Leicester had to win that, and now going on and steamrolling Brighton. Leicester are in fucking deep trouble, and from a Newcastle point of view, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't want it to happen because I actually admire Leicester, but James Maddison is a player Newcastle have been looking at for a long time, and I would not be surprised to see us go in and buy this lad. My only worry is he does seem a bit inconsistent, but if you can get those kind of numbers this season in a relegation battle, it's very hard. He's one of the few people who probably doesn't deserve blame at that club. In terms of transfer rumours, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea and every other fucker seem to want Declan Rice. Talks of him being worth £120 million. Bearing in mind, Harry Kane scored 20 odd goals this season for a shite Spurs team, and yet they'll be lucky to get 100 million for him. That's a massive amount of money for a player like Rice. Although in the long term, with how young he is, it probably will be a great bit of business. I fancy him personally to end up at Arsenal or Chelsea. I think he'll stay in London. I wish Newcastle would get him because I think that he is the perfect player for us. That's exactly what we need, but I just think he's going to have massive clubs in for him, and rightly so. He's a quality player. Arsenal going to give Bakayo Saka, 21-year-old lad, 300 grand a week. My God, how the fucking hell does someone cope with that? That is mental. David De Gea is agreeing a new contract with Manchester United. He's 32 years old, and this has divided the fan base. And I'll say why, because he is clearly in the decline, but they arguably have bigger problems. But the problem is when you're a keeper, you start making those mistakes, you're costing them games immediately. I would understand why they just offload him at this point, to be honest with you. When you look at the fact that Newcastle spent, 10 million on Nick Pope? Nick Pope, has probably been better than David De Gea this year. And David De Gea has just got such glaring weaknesses in his game. Not that I think Nick Pope hasn't, but I see why Man United fans want to move the lad on. And you can now see why Henderson left Man United in a bit of a rage. Like, I understand he was a bit of a dick with the way he went on about it, but he's probably looking at David De Gea and training thinking, I'm better than you now. It does seem like a bit of a sideways step from Man United and a bit of a sign of the times. But if they get taken over before the end of the season, he could find himself as a second choice goalkeeper by next season. So that's all I've got time for today, but don't forget this Sunday, Arsenal versus Brighton. The Kickoff Live is back with a full debate show. Get your topics in the comments below. If there's any debates that you want us to cover, let us know. Really appreciate all the support. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.